Hi, everyone. I'm Alison Pilon. Thanks for inviting me to speak on this call. So I just want to very briefly mention some of the tools that we have on our website on workforce adjustment. So if you go to psac.com, and there is, on the right-hand side of your screen, you can click on workforce adjustment. That will take you to our page on workforce adjustment. And on that page, there are a number of links. There is a short pamphlet. It's an introduction to workforce adjustment. As well, we have information about workforce adjustment committees, and those fact sheets discuss how the committees work, what they talk about, and the role of the committees. We also have a question and answer sheet for term employees, and as well, what is a really good tool is the flow chart for the process. So if you click on that, it's a PDF that you can download and you can print it off at home, and it provides an overview of the process, kind of along the lines of what Howie was just describing. As well, there is a guide to workforce adjustment for Treasury Board employees. And if you click on that, there is a PDF guide as well as a number of information sheets that really do provide a description of each stage of the process and each different subject, such as affected employees, surplus employees, alternation, etc. So those information sheets are very much more thorough and do give a description of what's in the collective agreement around each of those stages of the workforce adjustment process. As well, there are a couple of other tools on the website, and we're developing more tools to put up there. We will be putting up some tools for, right now we have the guide for Treasury Board employees. We have developed one for parks and for CFIA, and those will be going up shortly. And as well, for CRA, members at CRA, the UTE website has fact sheets for CRA employees. And we are also developing a question and answer page as well that will be up on our website. So those are just some of the tools. They do give you an overview and some more information about the process, and they may answer some of your questions as well, and give you information so that you can be as well prepared as possible in terms of understanding your rights under the collective agreement.
We're going to get to questions right now. So we have a question from Yvonne about age limits for alternation. Yvonne, what's your question?
Hi. My question is there an age limit for people who would be willing to be an alternate?
No, there is no age limit. The collective agreement says that the employer must participate in an alternation process, and anyone who is an indeterminate public service employee, for instance, in the core public service, can alternate with an opting employee. Now, you must not be affected to be an alternate, and you must be opting to switch with an alternate. But there's absolutely no age limit.
Thanks for your question, Yvonne. Now we're going to go on to a question from Darlene, who has a question about parks and reasonable job offers and the deadline for voluntary layoffs. Darlene, what's your question tonight?
We've been given the option of voluntary layoff prior to this process, the deadline being tomorrow morning to commit to it. And I'm asking if I am 55 to 59 and decide to stay on to see if I am affected, will the pension waiver for early departure still be in effect should I lose my job a month or two down the road.
Thank you for the question. Yes, absolutely. The employer has kind of preempted the process by asking for volunteers, but there certainly is always the ability for volunteers who want to leave. That's through the alternation process, which is part of the workforce adjustment process. So folks don't have to make a decision now. They can wait to see if they're affected. If they want to leave and they're not affected, they can volunteer to alternate. If they are affected, then they will, if they are surplus, they will have the options. And the pension waiver does apply if you meet the conditions, which is between 55 and 59, and with at least 10 years service. And there are some other conditions, depends on your situation under workforce adjustment.
The pension waiver is a aspect of legislation. It's part of the Public Service Superannuation Act and has been in the act since I think 1998, but certainly the late 1990s. So in terms of the legislation, that's not going away unless unless there's legislation that changes it. And there's certainly no hint that that would be the case.
Thanks, Howie, and thanks, Darlene, for your question. So next we're going to go to Brian. Brian has a question about CRA cuts.
Hi, hello, fellow brothers and sisters. My question is twofold here. Have you got any numbers for Canada Revenue Agency as to the amount of people that are affected at this time?
No, Brian, we haven't. It's our understanding that the government has advised departments and agencies to stagger the notices every couple of weeks. So certainly we haven't had any affected notices from CRA yet, although certainly the component suggests that we probably will see some in the future, but as yet we have not, so we have no idea what the numbers would be.
Next, we're going to go to Karen McGill. Karen has a question about transition support.
Sorry, I am not an affected employee, but I have a position available and wish to alternate. The transition support measures, are they based on the opting employee or are they based on the years of the alternative employee?
The transition support measure is based on the person who is leaving the public service. So if an alternate switches with an opting employee, the alternate would then be in that position to take the transition support measure or education allowance. And so the transition support measure would be based on their years of service.
Thanks for the question, Karen. Okay, well, we're going to go to a question from Janet then. Janet has a question about deadlines for departments to send out notices. Janet, go ahead and ask your question.
I work for the Department of Justice, and they're sort of laying low right now and not giving out, to what I understand, no one's gotten a letter of any kind. So I'm just wondering if there's some kind of a deadline that Treasury Board has legislated that our department has to have sort of maybe the first stage roll out.
No, I don't believe there's a deadline, but certainly it's our impression from the notices that we've seen to date that all the departments are pretty much ready to go, but that they've been advised not to all go at the same time. So we anticipate, although we don't know for sure because Treasury Board has been very, very non-transparent about this whole process, as you know, but we anticipate that we will see departments be giving notices to the union about affected positions probably every 2 weeks. We're fairly confident that we're going to see some more notices next week, but we don't know what departments those will be yet. And we probably won't until the president of the PSAC actually receives the notices.
Next, we're going to go to Dawn, who wants to ask a question about term employees and layoff. Dawn, what's your question tonight?
Hi, I'm a term employee and with Parks Canada, And when my term is up, I guess there's nothing I can do, eh? If they, as I understand what they'll do is if they delete, say, a similar position in a different park, that person has the option of applying where I work.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Workforce Adjustment Appendix does not provide protection for term employees. Certainly, as you probably know, we have problems with the employer with term employees. It's always been our position that the employer should be hiring employees indeterminately right from the start, or using term employment as a short-term measure and then rolling over employees into indeterminate positions. We all know that the employer tends to abuse that. Unfortunately, the workforce adjustment appendixes contemplate protection for indeterminate employees, and so, as I said, term employees aren't covered, and generally they would be the first to go in a workforce adjustment situation. I'm very sorry to have to give that answer, but that really is the way it is.
Thanks again for your question, Don. We now have a question from Charlotte, who is wondering about reasonable job offers and location. Charlotte's from St. Albert, Alberta. Charlotte, what's your question tonight?
Okay, you mentioned about a reasonable job offer. Now, does that reasonable job offer mean within the geographic area that I am living in, or can it be outside of the geographic area?
The definition of reasonable job offer is in the collective agreement in the Workforce Adjustment Appendix. What that says is it's an offer of indeterminate employment within the core public administration, normally at an equivalent level, but which could include lower levels, and that surplus employees must be both trainable and mobile, and where practicable, a reasonable job offer shall be within the employee's headquarters, as defined in the travel directive. So what that means is that the employer has to search within your area first. But if the employer has done a search and there isn't employment available in your area, they can offer you a relocated job as a reasonable job offer. So it does depend on the situation. The employer, as I say, does have to do a search and to first rule out, whether there are positions within your area, and they do have to, make reasonable efforts to find something within your location. But at the end of the day, if there isn't something available, they may offer you a relocation, and if you refuse the relocated reasonable job offer, then you would be subject to layoff.
Thanks for the question, Charlotte.